And hello to Let's Talk Bohurt. This is a show where we get into the weeds of it, find out the important things about the steel fighting community, and get deeper into them. This week, we're talking to Tim Martin, one of the most renowned halberdiers in the UK, arguably Western Europe as well. So, hello, Tim.
Hello.
So, most of the people in the UK should know who you are by now, but for those
Hope so.
new to sport or don't know, if you just give us a bit of background on yourself, where you come from and where you've been in the sport.
I'm Tim. I'm currently fighting for Northern Wolves and Primus. I started the sport, it'll be 7 years in January. And I've been to every Battle of the Nations bar 2015 since. Good chunk of IMCFs. Been Northern Wolves vice and team captain, and even a short stint as the IMCF England captain, which was fun.
So obviously proficient with sarcasm as well as an axe. That's good to know. So obviously I've introduced you as a very famous halberdier, but how did you get started in the sport, and was it with the halberd straight away, and how did you get into using the two-handers?
I was originally just standard sword and board, maybe a one-handed axe. Was almost entirely useless on most things and ended most of my fights in crippling agony because I came into the sport with either tendonitis or tendinosis in both elbows on both sides. So that didn't work. And then 8 months into the sport, funny enough, the day after my birthday, we was at Bosworth Battlefield. We were just a sideline gig as the UK Feds, bought a reenactment axe, liked the look of it. Like the feel of it. Eventually, the tiny 24-inch pine handle broke and whacked on just a 32-inch hickory one, and just built up from there. So,
okay, so it was back in the early days of the sport, such you had an affinity for it. It seems. We kind of picked up on there. You have your strong opinions about the construction of halberds. So, for those people looking at the weapons themselves, what do you think are the best sort of? Is there an ideal warhead shape, size for the weapons? Because you see some massive, chunky, lumpy, bumpy things come out of some workshops, and opposed to that, you see some quite smaller, generally axe-shaped ones.
Unless you're a big cunt, then you don't want a big axe. But typically, if you're a big cunt, you don't want a two-handed axe unless you can move. General rule of thumb is what my feeling is, though there is some big guys who are deadly. Shape of axe, I'm used to a bearded. I try to keep the beard as close to the handle as I can so nothing snags. There's people that say they can hook and mess around like that. I don't screw around like that. Just say bearded. I did have a crescent one once. The top of that broke off. And that became Matilda, which I think you're familiar with.
Yeah.
Nasty little gap finder. Very effective considering the tiny size of it, but now illegal, unfortunately. But halberds, I've only got one, which is what I used for the 12s until that died. And that was just one I got. I've no definitive preference on shape. It's more about weight, how it balances. Because I prefer a counterweight on the end of mine, and because I do a lot of horizontal striking. Vertical is still a bit weird to me, which is why I use shorter halberds usually, 1.8 to 2 meters instead of 2 to 2.2. And so, say counterweight, about 400 grams or so. Heads 700-800 grams, something around that.
Okay.
You can then use that, smaller counterweight, bit smaller head, whatever, however it evens up. And I just like them nice and fast, easy to use.
Yeah, I remember you being a fairly early adopter of the counterweight, and it did massively change the feel of those weapons. So that's the ironwork of the weapon. What about wood? It's always a big old conversation about what to make your wood out of, and we've seen some ridiculous compositions in the sport before, ranging from that bendy rattan stuff.
I am rattan is a grass, so you can fuck right off with that. Hickory is magic as far as I'm concerned, and I love it. Anyone who wants to get my good graces, bring me hickory blanks, and I'll love you forever. Unfortunately, it is expensive. It doesn't really grow in Europe, and you've got to get it kiln dried from a lumberyard. And I can't be asked for that anymore. I go into the woods, I chop down hazel branches, elder as well, which, as much as it's ridiculously soft, it's mostly used for carving. It occasionally works. It either definitely doesn't, or it really, really does.
Okay.
So if you do use elderberry handles, test it rigorously first, because I had 2 that went to IMCF and died straight away. As in, first round of a dueling, pole arm dueling, both of them died. So, but then again, the halberd I used for the 12s, that was elder. That was quite thin. Lasted until the second to last hit I did in the final, and I did every round. And then I've got another one that has lasted most of the 12s, a lot of the 30s, and some of the 150s. That's downstairs, still works. Elder is definitely best for heat sticks for training. It's just, season it, soak it in oil, put a foot of tape on the top foot, tape it with hockey tape. That ain't gonna die. It just isn't. You can be the weights are a bit weird. You kind of have to go quite light, otherwise you're knocking people out with little effort, and it's just not right. You think you're hitting harder than you can. I try to resist using the heavier one when I'm training, just because I get cocky, and it's I can be bad enough as it is sometimes. So at the moment, if I'm making a handle, it's probably hazel. Seasoned for for God's sake. Is it still going, Barney?
Yeah, still got you, mate.
It's really timed out me.
I can still see you fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
That's the wood itself. What about the treatment and the actual construction of it? Like you said, soak it in oil. What's your regime for that to get a handle good to go?
Season for 4 to 6 months, though I've got some stuff that's in my garage for about 2 years, just so I've not got around to using it. Don't cut elder in the summer. It is sopping wet and will crack like buggery when seasoning. If you're a bit cautious about it being too wet, tar paint either end and any knots, and then leave it horizontal. Always leave it horizontal to dry, and less light to get warps and crack, warping of it. You're gonna lose some to warp and crack, just because nature.
Yeah.
And where was I? I forget what I'm going about. Soak it in a pipe for about a week or 2, sometimes more if you fancy it. I use 3 or 4 to 1 boiled linseed oil and terps, or terp substitute, because you can't get terps in the UK anymore. And yeah, that basically does it. You definitely want to shape your handle first, because otherwise you're wasting your time. Okay. I'm not a fan of using ash anymore, because I've soaked ash for about 2 weeks plus, and it just doesn't go deep enough. When it cracks, it dies. Hickory and hazel cracks, you glue it, tape it, done. Start using it again. I've got a spear that's had that done 7 or 8 times. It's fine. Okay. Ash dies instantly. It can still be a good wood, but when it's dead, it's dead. So
fair enough.
So, beech is also good, by the way. That's what Joe Dawes uses at the moment, I believe. So
you can't argue with his results either, can you?
No.
So we got in. You touched on it earlier about being left in crippling pain a lot when you use the falchion, but not so much when you're using axe. So the biggest problem that a lot of people face when they start using the two-handers is how to defend themselves as adequately.
Wear armor.
Armor is a good point, but equally, if you've got a halberd, you want to be moving a lot and you don't want to be weighed down too much. What are your top points for your self-defense when you've got a two-hander?
don't be where someone's hitting. If you're general rule of thumb, I mean, if you can get some sort of defensive stuff, langets, or just some sort of like a string and glue wrap on your handle, you can defend with that a bit better. You don't want to be taking blades to your handle too much; that will die very quickly. Or if you're going to block a halberd or someone's their handle, it's less likely to break. If you're defending, if you've just stuck and you can defend yourself, like tighten up, get things covering as much, a hit covering as much space as you can so it spreads. And if someone's running at you, throw them. Get good at grappling. Get good at throwing. If you're in the middle of the list and you got a pole arm and you can't grapple or throw in the middle of the lists, you are a liability. I know that because I used to be a liability.
Yes, something we got into on the weapons episode was the secondary skill set of a halberdier that needs to be up to scratch of footwork, grappling,
absolutely necessary,
defense, and something I don't think crosses the mind of a lot of people when they want to use a halberd is a lot of people want to use a halberd because they see people like yourself getting these big one-hit kills and being the hero of the team, slaying people, and they forget that it's a team sport and you're just one cog in the big machine, and how vulnerable you can be as the halberdier, which leads me on to like your position in a team, and what do you need from your team for you to function well to do what you do?
Well, as you know, I like to be middleman. I do that when I can. If not, I'm second from left, just because you're freer. For the rest of the team, stubbornness and trusting me, and just I don't want to sound like what Anthony was on about the other day, making yourself seem like you're the one doing everything, big ego, what have you. I try not to because I am well aware of my faults, and you've got your job as any middleman, but especially if you're a pole guy, is to get that first guy down so your team can then just be 4 and 5 if you need to. The other 4 just tie the others up, and your big hitter goes around big hitting. So you say I'm second from left. The guy on my left who's on the list kind of has to trust me. If I run off, it's for a good reason. If I'm in the middle, I have to trust the guys at the sides as well to do their business. And there's fights where I've took down 4 guys, but I couldn't take down those 4 guys if it was just me, or if there was 4 of us. As I say, the team is the team, and you need your guys to do their work.
There's a bit of a phenomenon I notice sometimes with a team, that when you bring a halberdier in, is a lot of lads will tend to get lazy and have the thought of, I'll just hold this bloke and wait for the axe to come along.
Yeah, I mean, there's another 3 guys in your team, not just that guy in the halberdier. So getting things like that, just weathering stuff, it can be useful. It's not ideal. If it's all you can do, then do it.
I mean, above all else, survive is important. But if all you're doing is holding onto the bloke, and the other 3 blokes are just holding onto a bloke,
I get tired quicker. I don't like getting tired.
It's up to the blokes on the line grappling to try and get that numbers game as quickly as possible as well. Otherwise, the halberdier is running about with somebody on his ass the whole time, and he's not free to do what he's got to do. Like, the halberdier individually becomes a real asset when he's free to do what he's got to do. And for that to happen, you've got to start putting people down quickly. If you just lay on the list and go, I'll just hold him, and the axe.
Oh, I lost you there, mate.
You back?
I lost that last minute or so. After 30 seconds.
I'm recording it, mate. I can see you all. But yeah, okay. So we'll go on from there. Obviously, you're very you're well lauded in the community. Everyone knows that you know what you're doing. You've got many medals, many awards. Is there anything that you feel in your fighting history and career that you've done wrong? Anything that you'd go back and change in the way that you've done things?
I mean, there's probably plenty. You could sit the less cuddly members of White Company down in a panel and then rip to pieces. But as is sort of the running gag in the Wolves and Primus, my lack of training. I just don't do it enough. I am aware of it. I make the jokes that I run on magic, but I do need to train more, and I am very much aware of it. But my memory's not good enough to pick out bits and pieces. It just isn't.
I think consistency of training is a big enough thing for people to take away from that.
Yeah.
So talking of training and not doing enough of it, for the budding axemen in the community, what would you recommend as being the most important things to get training early, whether it's on the physical conditioning and strength side of things or the technical side?
My technical side comes from hip hinge stuff in the gym. Mm-hmm. I knocked my hip out of my pose out of line 12 years ago, whatever it was. Couldn't squat for ages, could deadlift. So I spent a lot of time, and I absolutely love it, deadlifting and doing power clean and stuff like that. So that hip hinge is massively ingrained into me. Like, I've not done a power clean properly in about 2 years, but I've still got the hits. Not quite as hard, but the form's still there. I can pick it up when I need to. Cardio is, of course, king. You're running around like a madhead. That's why I try and throw people more. I have to run around less. It's not nice being tired. It's exhausting. But yeah, hip hinge stuff, strong back, strong core, Bohurt stuff talked about, transversus abdominis. Read through that, get into that sort of stuff, because you need a powerful core. You need a strong back. Back when I was just hitting and wasn't able to do any throws, at the end of a tournament, like the next day, my back was in shreds, even though it was really quite strong. My back was in pieces just because it's so heavy on the back. Even when you're powering through your glutes, your back just takes a lot, especially when you're doing rewind, like winding up again and trying to be quick and explosive. So learn how to power clean properly and really properly, get the coach's eye and be an arsehole to yourself. Go back and forth, record it. That's how I did it. I spent 2 months or so recording every single rep back when I was just gym work, and it paid off. I probably look like an ass in the gym, but no one there remembers me anymore, so it doesn't matter.
No, looking like an arse in the gym is never an issue, and I say this to my lads as well. When it comes to being an arse to yourself, I always say when we're training with each other, you do your friend no benefit for not picking them up for what they do wrong.
Yeah, I can be a horrible gym buddy, but also the best.
You're known for being particular. I'll give you that. So you said
put it that way.
In the past, there's some other cross-training benefits you've got from other things. Like I think you've said golfing has led to a big improvement in your swing.
I wouldn't say it's just another thing that's ingrained in me. I did a bit of golf when I was a kid, and it wasn't until I was watching some videos back that I was like, hold on, that's the tail end of a golf swing. There's the power clean, carry on through, but because you got the rotation, my legs just, the way the toe comes up, it's absolute dead perfect golf swing, just that little bit. And say the rest is power clean, just because the way you want to do power cleans, and especially kettlebell swings, if you can't do power cleans, just hips, arms do zero work. They hold the thing, they don't do anything. That's what, if you're going to take home a training thing, that also don't bench press an armor. But yeah, it is basically just hip work, hip hinge stuff, and that tiny bit of golf. So
cool. And like technique wise, field training wise, what do you think the most important things to focus on? So are there any particular strikes more important than anything else? Any particular facets of grappling that you find to be the most important?
I would say technically it's not grappling, but the throw that I am fairly known for, which I obviously did training for hip throws and what have you, and I couldn't get it. It never locked in for me. I think I know why from watching some other stuff, but that's for me to work on before I start talking about it. But I'd basically just try and lead someone back, and then as they charged, I'd stop and turn them, and they just develop from that. As much as I'm average height, I'm of a height for the sport where an underhook is really easy. It's just boom, straight in. I've got a spare arm, because especially with a counterweight axe, hold it in the middle, it's nothing. And then the left arm typically is just it slots straight in. You've not got a shield in the way, unless you put a buckler on it, and it can be effortless, especially against more beginner teams or gung ho teams, guys who think, oh, halberdier. One of the known things to do, you've got halberdier, you close in on them.
Yeah.
It is a thing. You should definitely do it, but you shouldn't just try and run through it.
Yeah.
Because there's a bunch of us that do trips and throws that, I mean, you kind of have to.
If you're going to be prepared for you to come running at them.
Yeah. If you're going to be, well, even if you're just going to run around the list, regardless of being a halberdier, if you're going to run around the list, you're in the open. You need to have those throws down.
Yeah.
And they're dead simple. You just need some quick reactions. That's really all it is. It just build it into yourself, practice, and it becomes second nature. I've been able to do it before, just without meaning to. I've thrown someone without meaning to, and I go, I was fucking lucky. But just from muscle memory, do it. As with everything we do, train it. It becomes second nature.
Yeah, I've always said if you've got time to think about something in a fight, you've already lost. It's the more you can run off of memory, the better.
Yeah.
What about kit and equipment? Is your rig any different from a sword and boards fight? Is there anything particular to your fight style that you have different, do you think?
I probably favour slightly bigger shoulders than, I'm not everyone, obviously some people have massive shoulders, but I did make sure to get some decent sized shoulders after I got pinged in the shoulder by a Russian in Barcelona. I mean, Tristan's obviously. I mean, the state of people that wear scale mitts for a pole arm.
Oh, I love to see it. I love looking across the list and seeing that.
Yeah.
Big shoulders are a theme that I've seen a lot because you don't need so much up and down because you work a lot from your core rotation, so you can afford to have heavier shoulders, I suppose.
Yeah, I do fit them in a way that's a bit different to most. I don't tie them on. I definitely don't tie them on. Screw that. Because I don't tend to overhead a lot unless I'm using a halberd in 12 and 30s. I'm just not going there. It's so rare. I've got just a leather tab riveted on my collarbone, riveted onto the shoulder. It's never coming off. It isn't. Work a crease into it, oil it up, bang. So long as you line it up right, it's never going to be an issue. It's an issue when you're packing it, but that's it. I have a big box, done. I've got, just articulated plate legs, full greaves, sabs, obviously. I've got floating arms just because I do, because I've had them for ages, probably too long. I wouldn't mind articulated arms, but I'm in no rush. If I get them, I get them. But the floating arms work well. So you kind of need a bit. You always need fast arms anyway. So it's one of those. That's a personal preference thing, and of course, Wolford Master Race.
Yeah, we've covered that to death, and it keeps coming up. But that is the only way forward. How many weapons do you take with you to a tournament? How many pole arms go with you?
I don't like taking less than 3. There's times when I've took 2 and I've regretted it. That the Winter Fight Cup we went to last, and I broke both of them in the same round against Lines of Steel. That was soul destroying. It's lucky I managed to fix one for the next day, but 2 is a bare minimum. 3 is reasonably safe. Battle of the Nations, I'm taking 3 axes and 3 halberds, I think. I've got a few to make up in May even before halberds, so there's people got spares. because there's not many other people that use them, or have them to use. So it's always worth the spares.
Cool. So last point, and probably a bigger one here, is mentality for the halberdier and for the fighter in general, I suppose. How would you explain that? How do you tackle that?
Personally, I'm probably I'm kind of known for being a bit too nice.
Yeah.
I will not hit someone more than they need to be hit. There's one of our fights at Coombs against Taurus. You had a guy pinned to the list. It was after you had done your charge and I'd done a couple of throws, and then we had that guy on the list, and I hit him. I thought he was about to go down, so I was like, oh, leave that. Oh, wait, no, he's still up. And one more. Just, I can't help it. It's ingrained into me. If you're gonna be, there's nothing wrong with finishing a guy, making sure he's down. Like, I know White Company really do that. That guy's not down until he is down. But it's just not in me. It's just not me. And similarly, maybe not similarly, but if I know someone red mists, I don't want them on my team. I may even aim for them if I know they're on the other team, because I hate the idea of it. Which it's not just because it's a sport and you got to go out at the end of the day. It's just not cricket, is it? I don't like it.
No, self-control is a very important aspect.
I mean, it is in the rules as well, but it winds me up. It's not as often nowadays, but you used to get it a bit earlier on when things were less formal, official. Yeah. And if you're going to be doing that, piss off. Go fight in a pub. I can't be doing with it. Generally, if you're against the list, I will aim for you, because you shouldn't be in there.
Yeah.
If you're not controlling yourself, go away.
No, self-control is it's just an important aspect of being a person, let alone a fighter.
It is.
And I'm the same. I don't want someone, if someone can't control themselves, I can't control them. I can't be their captain. I don't want them on the team. I don't want unknown quantities.
I mean, it's as important in all fighters, but for a halberdier, an axeman, it's especially because I mean, I don't hit as hard as I used to, but you kind of got to be health and safety man a bit as well.
You can ruin lives.
Yeah, I used to say an axeman or a halberdier's job is to be a cross between a cruise missile and a health and safety officer. So move around a lot, hit things hard, don't kill people.
Yeah, I mean, everyone's had bad hits from axemans. I had my thumb broken by friendly fire over it all before, so we all know the risks they take. So, related to that, what mistakes do you see a lot of halberdiers making? What do you think a lot of axemen?
Would you say lack of control? What one thing that does wind me up because of my pure pedantry is just not doing it right. No, you've got a big hitty thing. Hit with it properly. You can. One-shot knockouts are very easy sometimes. Definitely always possible, really. Even with decent helmets, you can connect right. It doesn't happen quite as much as often now, to be honest. But if you're not swinging right, there's no bloody point doing it. I mean, I can barely use a falchion, so I wouldn't. But if you're going to use a weapon, learn how to use it. If you're a beginner, use a shorter axe. I mean, I started with that 24-inch little bitty thing. Went up to 32 and 36-inch because they were just hickory handles that were about. You can buy them. Then when I started making my own, 1 meter, 1.2, and then 1.5 now. It just works. But I've been doing that for 6 years.
Yeah.
I built up. I mean, it was only about 3 years into it that I started using that length. But similar with halberds, I don't use full length ones because I'm not practiced in it. So,
I always know when a halberdier is not going to be a threat, and when you line up, you have your little eyeball, and you walk up and down like fox eyeing each other up. And like little things, like when I see the halberdier with an over and over grip on his halberd, you know he's going to try and cuddle you with it. And you're like, that's not what it's for. You could knock me out with that. You're going to try and grapple with me. I'm twice your size.
Yeah, it's always sad when you see that.
Like, there's a running joke of these lumberjacks just wrapping their axe around a tree and trying to pull it down. It's not how you use an axe, is it?
Yeah, no, that's one thing that definitely winds me up, because it's, you're using it to use it. Fucking use it.
Yeah, when I see someone with that over grip, I'm just like, I know what you're gonna do. You've told me already. Just
and they're gonna dive, and then you don't even need to throw them. You just go stand a bit like that. You've bounced off. Unless they're 200 kilo, then they might go through it a bit, but usually they're not. And you just go bink, lay down, next. The rest of your team is obviously a bit naff because they let you on.
It's that people. It's remembering that you're not a one-man team, and picking up that axe doesn't make you dangerous. Just makes you a target.
It really doesn't. And
I've been hit by a lot of falchions that have hurt more than most of the axes I've been hit by.
Andalays, those two big cracks in my crease within 5 seconds with a falchion, and they've survived since 2016.
Yeah, and like you see
nothing, then bang, done, busted.
And you see me and Piers outrange a lot of halberdiers with our big falchions now. It's
they are tasty things. So, but again, as you were saying when you was on about that in the weapons one, you've got to build up to it.
Yeah,
you can't just.
It's not the weapon that makes you dangerous. You've got to get dangerous with weapons.
Yeah, so it goes back to form and what have you. I mean, I came in from the years I did all that, hip hinge and stuff. It translated straight off. And then later on, I started doing CrossFit, and that is hip hinge after hip hinge after hip hinge. Jesus, every other day you're doing some sort of hip hinge. And I maybe got a bit lazy with power work, because it was there. I managed to keep most of my accuracy, but that's partly down to the counterweights as well. It just makes it easier. So yeah, practice your stuff, learn how to do something properly.
Yeah,
you got to protect yourself as well, because you're not going to get injured as much. As much as I'm riddled with injuries, that's from other stuff that has got worse.
I always recommend to my lads to not start with halberd, because everyone sees it. Oh, I want to go with halberd. Not yet, mate. I think going in with the sword and board gives you the survivability to get more experience and learn your list craft, essentially.
Yeah, unless you've been doing like a lot of rugby and stuff like that, you're not going to have anything sort of like a contact team sport. Even football don't really get you there. It gives you a bit, but a lot of times I would prefer a rugby player to a boxer straight out of the mark, or an MMA fighter, or anything like that.
They've got the list IQ sort of thing, haven't they?
Yeah, they'll be really good power pro fighters, a boxer and MMA. You'll translate to that really quickly. As quickly as you can. The level's higher these days. But someone who does rugby keeps their head on a bit of a swivel. They're used to having multiple people around them, whereas
not so much tunnel vision on them.
Yeah, you don't have tunnel vision, and you just got you can train with a halberd as soon as you want, but you definitely need plenty of time in it. And you definitely need to listen to your experienced fighters as to when you should go in with it in a competition. If it's an easy competition, or it's not going anywhere, and the teams aren't that hard, then because if you're trying so much new against a team that's white company level, even Primus level, then they're just going to steamroll you, and you're not going to learn anything. You're better off doing your base level stuff,
and you're just going to get hurt.
You are.
If you don't know how to defend yourself with that stick and no shield, you're going to get hurt. Yeah. And it's going to put you off, and that's the last thing any of us want.
Yeah. So as much as, there's a lot of sounding like a dick to try and keep people, and it doesn't always work. So, but such is life. So.
Yeah, it's a tough game, but Yeah, the halberd is definitely a very specialist weapon, and just getting some experience in the list before switching over to it is always advantageous.
Yeah. I mean, as much as the instant I picked up a 200 axe, everything changed. I would never offer that to anyone as a way out. Never just, I wouldn't say, oh yeah, work for me, go for it. Yeah, it just happened. I was light on my feet, hence the axe frame moniker, pinging around all over the place. It just happens that it worked for me. It's not going to work for everyone. No. You can build up to it, but you're not. I was nippy out of the gate. Not everyone is, and it's so much to build on. Yeah. So there's definitely plenty of people leagues better than me, but yeah, I did well out of the gate. So.
Oh, happy days. Well, there's nothing else that you want to get over to the people at home.
I'd like to wish Dan Winter a happy birthday. Even though this is coming out after his birthday, it is his birthday today.
You've given away my entire schedule there, mate. Now, the people at home will know this is now not live. Damn it. But yes, mate. Thank you for all your experience and your advice there. And for those of you at home, please drop us a like and subscribe, and check on back later in the week when I have something else for you. Thank you very much, and goodbye.
Ta-ta.